Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you make $30 an hour, you're not making $30 an hour. You're making something closer to 4. Not because your boss is lying to you. Not because the number on your paycheck is fake. But because the system quietly takes the rest before you ever get to feel it. And the craziest part is this. Most people defending the system are the ones losing the most money to it. This video is about the work scam, not a conspiracy, not a secret cabal, just math, boring, brutal math. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's start with a person who does everything right. They show up on time. They learned a skill. They negotiated a decent hourly rate, $30 an hour. On paper, that's solid money. They work 40 hours a week. That's $1,200. 52 weeks a year. That's about $62,400. Respectable. Middle class. Stable. That's the number everyone quotes. But that's not the number that matters. Because no one lives on gross income. They live on what's left. And what's left is where the scam begins. Before that $62,400 even touches your hands, it gets sliced. Federal income tax, state tax, payroll tax, Social Security, Medicare, not optional, not avoidable. Depending on where you live, that $30 hour quietly drops to about $21, and that's the optimistic version. But okay, everyone knows taxes exist. That's not the scam. The scam starts with time, because that job didn't just cost you 40 hours a week. It cost you your commute, your preparation, your recovery, the unpaid hours. Let's be conservative. 1 hour a day commuting, half an hour getting ready, another half hour decompressing, because work doesn't shut off when the clock does. That's 10 extra hours a week. Unpaid. Now your 40-hour job is a 50-hour job. That $21 an hour just became $16.80. Still not terrible, but we're just getting started. Now let's talk about costs that only exist because you work. Transportation, fuel, maintenance, parking, work clothes, laundry, shoes that wear out faster because you stand all day or walk concrete floors, meals you wouldn't buy if you were home, coffee you didn't want but needed, childcare if you have kids, after-school programs, daycare, all so you can go make money. These aren't lifestyle choices. They're entry fees. When you subtract those, that $16.80 slides closer to $13, and we're still pretending nothing ever goes wrong. Now comes the part nobody wants to calculate, the time you don't control. You don't choose when you work. You don't choose when you're tired. You don't choose when life happens. If your car breaks, it's an emergency. If you get sick, it's unpaid or penalized. If your kid needs you, work comes first or you pay the price. Time is the most expensive thing you own, and the job rents it from you at a discount. But let's keep going, because even after all that, you still haven't spent the money. You still haven't lived. Rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, phone, internet. These aren't luxuries. They're survival infrastructure. In many cities, housing alone eats 50% of take-home pay. Now your $13 is closer to $7. And this is where people get uncomfortable, because they were told $30 an hour meant security. It doesn't. It means you're allowed to participate. Now add inflation, not the headline number. The real one. Rent up 20%, groceries up 30%, insurance quietly doubling, utilities creeping every year. Your wage didn't rise that fast, so your buying power shrinks while your effort stays the same. You're running harder to stay still. That $7, it's losing value while you sleep. And now we reach the part no one says out loud. The risk is entirely on you. If demand drops, you're cut. If the company mismanages, you're cut. If technology replaces you, you're cut. But if profits soar, you don't soar with them. Your upside is capped. Your downside is unlimited. That's not employment. That's asymmetric risk. Here's where the irony kicks in. You're told you're paid for your skill, but you're not. You're paid for your availability, for being there, for being replaceable. The system doesn't reward output. It rewards compliance. You get paid the same whether the company has its best day or its worst. Your labor creates value far, beyond your wage. That gap, that's the real product. Let's make it concrete. Imagine you generate $300 worth of value in an hour. You see $30. The other $270 doesn't disappear. It goes to overhead, to shareholders, to executives, to debt service, to growth projections. You're not underpaid because you're bad. You're underpaid because the system is built that way. And this is where the work harder advice collapses. Working harder doesn't change the equation. It just gives the system more time to extract. Overtime isn't freedom. It's a signal that the base math doesn't work. Now zoom out. Why does this feel worse now than it did decades ago? Because the deal changed. There used to be a trade. Stability in exchange for loyalty. Pensions. Benefits that lasted. Wages tied loosely to productivity. That deal is gone. Now it's flexibility in exchange for uncertainty. And flexibility mostly benefits the employer. Technology was supposed to help. Instead, it made labor measurable, trackable, optimizable. Every minute logged, every pause noticed, every output compared. You didn't gain leverage. You became data. Meanwhile, costs shifted. Healthcare moved to employees. Retirement moved to individuals. Risk moved down the ladder. The company got lighter. You got heavier. This is why a $30 per hour job feels broke. Not because you mismanage money. Because the system monetized your time, externalized the risk, and capped your upside, all while telling you to be grateful. And here's the quiet absurdity. If you stop working, everything falls apart immediately. No income, no benefits, no safety net. But if the company loses you, it replaces you. Not instantly, but inevitably. That imbalance shapes everything. This isn't about villains. It's about incentives. The system rewards cost control, not human comfort. Labor is the easiest cost to squeeze, so it gets squeezed. Now, some people escape. They freelance. They build businesses. They invest, not because they're smarter, but because they moved out of time for money trades. They stopped selling hours and started owning outcomes. That's not a guarantee. It's a shift in leverage. But most people never get that chance because the system keeps them just stable enough to stay, just tired enough not to plan, just stressed enough to accept the deal. And that's the real scam. Not that work exists, but that the math is hidden. You're told $30 an hour. You live for, and everyone pretends that's normal. So here's the question to sit with. If the economy depends on people working full-time and still barely surviving, is the problem individual effort? Or is the price of labor intentionally disconnected from the value it creates? Because once you ask that, the number on your paycheck stops looking generous. It starts looking strategic.